What's up, everyone? It's Brack back with another historic deck. We are playing Kethis combo today, and this combo is all in on basically one card, one combo, one win con. Every single time I've won, I believe it's been the same win condition. Now, there are other ways to win with this deck, but the main win condition is really what we're going to be focusing on and what we're going to be showing you today in this video. This deck is a tier 1 deck, so if you're looking to rank up and you're looking to get into the higher tiers, I'd really recommend this deck. It avoids really One Ring and Bowmasters played against you, and it avoids these Shieldreds played against you. So the three main cards played in this format, this deck completely ignores. So in this video, I'm just going to show you how this deck works. I'm going to play a few rounds, and then we're going to say what we want to change at the end. If you have any recommended changes that you might see that you have tested in your deck or that you think might be better over the cards that I have, list them in the comments below. Give me a reason why. It'd be great. I'd love the interaction just to kind of build and tweak these decks to really get them fine-tuned for the meta. But I like this deck. It's almost gotten me to Mythic. We are 2 wins away from Mythic rank, so we're going to get right into it. Zerda is our companion. It's a free card. All of our cards have activated abilities. So Zerda being free, it's an automatic include. If it wasn't free, I would not include it. I'd use another sideboard card. Mox Amber is our key card that we're going to be looping back, getting us infinite mana, or basically looping our mana so that we can basically go off on a turn. Halfling allows us to cast all these creatures much quicker on a turn earlier. It also allows everything to be uncounterable, which is very important in the control matchups. Chromatic Sphere helps us curve our mana out, also is a target for Emery. Rona helps filter our hand, but it also fills our graveyard, which is important, getting the right things in the graveyard, really starting to fill the graveyard with the key components to make Kethis really go off. Rona also, her backside, is an alternative win con, and this is one of the only alternative win cons we have as far as swinging and attacking, turning right with our creatures. She does quite a bit of damage when she turns over. Now, I really like her backside. I think that it is one of the better cards in the March of the Machines set that came out, and it's really finding a place in a lot of decks. But essentially, anything I cast untaps her, and I can basically retap her and abuse it and just use her ability multiple times a turn. Rezug allows us to target anything at graveyard and basically get our combo back out of the graveyard. Lazav is the same thing. Rezug and Lazav serve a similar purpose. Kinnan allows us to go quicker. All of our mana rocks, our Delighted Halfling, our Mox Ambers, our Chromatic Sphere, our Relic of Legends, all tap for more mana than what they typically would with Kethis on the field. It allows us to get to that combo quicker. It gets us there a turn sooner, etc. Emery is a key component of the deck just because it mills you, but it also allows you to grab and replay your cards. Chromatic Sphere is a good loop card to play every turn, allowing you to draw a card and target it again and recast it. So you can grind out a little bit in this deck if you stall out and you need to get a couple cards. That's one way to do it. Jace Perfected Mind is the key component in this deck. Jace being cast on turn 3, turn 4 with Kethis in play. This actually could be, I do Delighted Halfling turn 1, Kethis turn 2, Jace the Perfected Mind turn 3 on 4 CMC. It comes out with 5. It mills me 15. I target myself. And if Kethis is in the battlefield, if I mill myself 15 and I hit a Mox Amber, typically I can win on that turn. So the best win in this deck can be done on turn 3, I believe. I don't think I've ever won on turn 2. I think it's just a little bit too fast, and we need to set up just another turn or two. However, Jace Perfected Mind mills us the cards that Kethis needs to target, and ultimately our win con is Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Now, Jace states that if I were to draw a card out of my deck and it has no cards left, I win the game instead. So alternative, usually I would lose the game if I drew a card out of my deck with no cards, but Jace being in play allows me to win the game. Now, I'm milling myself. I have Jace as a target for Kethis. I recast Jace, Wielder of Mysteries when I get to the point where I have no cards left in my library, and then I use the +1 ability. So Jace is our win con. It's our main win con. It's what we play around. However, we do have some attack damage with Rona's ability. We can also mill the opponent out. We can mill the opponent out just the same way that we would mill ourselves out. If we lose Jace, our win con, we need to start targeting the opponent with Jace's down or negative X ability. And then we can recast Jace Perfected Mind just like we would loop that in our deck. targeting us. Instead, we target the opponent, we mill them out. Those are our 3 win conditions in this deck. Mill ourselves, draw a card, win with Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Mill the opponent with Jace, Perfected Mind. Or swing right, which I've never actually won a game with combat damage with this deck yet. However, Rona is a good threat to keep pressure on the field. Also helps keep pressure on Planeswalkers if you need it. But Rona is just a great card all around. Into our sideboard, we have Zerda, of course, as a free card. We have Fatal Pushes for any quick aggro matchups like Mono Red or Gruul. We have Thoughtseizes that interact with other combo decks as well as control decks. Stone of Erich is one of our cards to fight against Graveyard. We have Skrelv that comes out when there's a lot of target removal or spot removal, such as Black-Red. Baconia is another graveyard, basically a graveyard interaction card. I can fight against the graveyard and also can specialize into other things and kind of help me depending on what I need during that matchup. Lauren, the third path, is a great card to bring in as a 1-up. You can get her in the graveyard, cast her, get that really nuisance card out of the way, or hopefully you can draw into her, get rid of a Pithing Needle or whatever you need to get rid of. That is just all around pretty good to have. Artifact enchantment removal. Lae'zel I've actually just put in there to test her out. I don't think I've used it well enough to tell you how good this card is and how good it is against different matchups. I know that it has a lot of modal abilities where it has a lot of different options to choose depending on what the game state currently is. It's a good threat. It's basically a nice wall because it can trade up with anything. Urza's Ruinous Blast is a catch-all. It doesn't target or hit any of my cards except for Delighted Halfling and Relic of Legends. Chromatic Sphere I would sack before I would cast it, but those are the 2 cards that it would hit that would still technically be on the battlefield if I needed to cast Ruinous Blast. It just completely resets the game. In the new meta, legendaries are a lot more common, a lot more popular. Urza's Ruinous Blast isn't as good right now because there's so many legendary matters creatures, especially in my deck. We see my deck, we see Sheoldreds, we see Crucius. They're all legendary, so this card isn't as good as it used to be with a lot of the sets that are coming out now. Minsc and Boo, if it lands, and it could really just put a lot of pressure on. It's a good removal card. It's something that I put in there against decks that have a hard time interacting with Planeswalkers. And then I have a basic Forest against Field of Ruin decks. Mono Black is very popular. Field of Ruin decks are very popular. You see that a lot. And that's the deck as a whole. The lands I've chosen to play are Otawara. Legendary lands are good targets for Kethis. And we can play a land out of the graveyard if we need it when Kethis is in the field. We don't have a land in play. And we can get Tekanuma, Boseiju, or Otawara out of the graveyard, put it in battlefield. Now, you can't use its channel ability from the graveyard. That would be incredible, but you can't. I wish. So milling these over is not a bad thing to do because of Kethis' ability. It helps shield that. And Watery Grave, we have 1 of. Blooming Marsh, we have 2. Temple Garden, we have 1 of. Botanical Sanctum, we are 4. Mana Confluence, we have 4 of because we are a multicolored deck. Plaza of Heroes allows us to cast anything that we want in our deck. It also protects everything in our deck because of its ability. Now, this doesn't cast Delighted Halfling, so that's one thing it really kind of misses, and that's the only thing that this card misses. It cannot cast that card now. It's still worth it to play 4 of this and 4 of Halfling. Just because they're both very, very good cards in this shell. Looking at our curve here, here's our mana curve. We're a 4-color deck with a curve pretty much on the 1, 2, and 3 side. We don't want to be casting more than that. You know, our 4 mana spells are typically 3 mana with Kethis' reduction of cost, as well as Jace's Phyrexian mana cost. And Burial Rites is our only true 4 mana card that would cost 4 mana out of the graveyard. Unburial Rites just allows us to mill ourselves freely with Jace, the Perfected Mind, and we can mill our key combo pieces like Kethis, and we can still get Kethis back with Unburial Rites. So that's why we have a 1 of. And, well, other than that, I'll be like deck. We're going to play a few games. This is a great starting hand. This is kind of the hand we want to see starting out. Delighted Halfling and Rona start filtering. Tyvar is Recursion if one of these die. Jace is one of our key components to mill ourselves out if we find a Kethis. This is what we like to see on the opening hands. Is a green source to play Halfling as well. Now we can play either a Tyvar. We could even play a Chase. I don't know if I want to play Chase. It depends on what they're playing. They're playing essentially Spirits. They can't counter anything. They wouldn't counter anything anyways. I mean, they have Stern Scolding, but that's fine. Okay, Spectral. So where this matchup's not too bad with Delighted Halfling out. They can't counter really anything like they want to be doing. So right now they're going to probably try to race us. We cast Relic. Going to reduce the cost of Emery. And we're going to cast Emery, fill our graveyard. Try to find a Kethis, untap Rona. Well, I mean, not really find a Kethis, but fill our graveyard with cards that we need. We need Rona to try to cycle into our Kethis. I'm going to use her ability right now in case we draw a Mox. Tyvar can also grab Lazav or Rezug, and then that can copy Kethis. So next turn, I think I'm going to Jace, mill myself as much as I can, and then I'm going to Tyvar one of those creatures. Hopefully I live long enough to do that. So they're going to try to pressure. Maybe I think Jace into Tyvar next turn is what I need to do. Okay, so they're going to pressure very hard here. We're on a 2-turn clock. Okay, we drew Kethis. So I think that should be game. It should be game. Okay, so we're going to show you how this works now. So since we drew Kethis, we're going to get rid of Tyvar. We don't need... Kethis' ability is immediate, and it doesn't need to tap Kethis to use it, so we don't need Tyvar's instant, and we just want shit in the graveyard at this point. I'm going to cast Kethis first. That's going to reduce the cost of Jace. We can go ahead and play our land. If we thought they might have an answer, or this is really good to have when you're about to combo off the turn you're about to combo, because we can answer a nuisance card like Unlicensed Hearse or Pithing Needle or something like a Karn. We can bounce it and then go off. And so that's what this card is so good in this deck for. Alright, I'm going to grab Mox Amber. I'm going to draw and discard. We're going to go ahead and cast this Otawara, or use this Otawara. Cast the Jace. Just keep fill the graveyard. Okay, so this should be game. If I can hit another Mox Amber with 15 cards, then it's going to be game.
Showed me the truth. Flesh will
If I don't, then that's okay. We have another turn because they don't really have much interaction unless they eat the Kethis. So we milled. Wow, so we did not mill another Mox. That's okay. So we're still going to try to go off this turn. We're going to get rid of both the Sejus. We're going to cast Jace again. And we're going to trigger Rona when we cast it. Yep. Alright, we're going to build ourselves 15 more. And then we should hit a Mox Amber this turn, so this should get us to our win. We need 2 Mox Ambers.
I will shatter
oh wow,
your
did we still not hit another Mox? That is wild. So we have not hit another Mox yet. Okay, so that's very rare that we wouldn't hit a Mox. I'm going to cast another Emery. We only have 11 cards. So our other 3 Moxes are in the bottom 11 here. Go ahead and keep this one, doesn't matter. Alright, now we found it. Okay. Ah, we got it. Alright. Use her a little bit more, try to get us down a little bit further. Alright, now we can start casting our spells that we want to cast. That's not what we want. Alright. Fine, just keep on discarding. Down to 5 cards now. We really just want to get down to... actually, I'm going to cast a cannon. It's game over. They just need to concede now. See. All right, we're going to use Kethis' ability one more time to reuse the Mox Ambers again. We're going to target 2 cards that we don't need. We're going to recast the Mox. And now that we have Kinnons, we're going to stop using Rona's ability here in a second because we'll kill ourselves if we don't. We'll draw before we actually get Jace on the battlefield, then we would be in a world of hurt. So we're actually going to use this one more time, so Jace's ability his +1 will actually be the win rather than casting another card. But now that we can do that, we're going to go ahead and cast our Jace and hope that they don't have this random counter. So this is our win con. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to mill ourselves 2 and draw a card, targeting ourselves, and this will win us the game here. Mill 2, draw. And that's how this deck works. So this is what we want to be doing every game. That's really the speed that we want to be going at. That was at turn 4. We can win turn 3, which is obviously what we really try to do, but turn 4 is very consistent that way, as you saw. But that is the win condition that we want to be achieving. All right, so finishing up the stream, we have shown you how the deck operates and how the deck wins. Now, after playing a few matches, I would make a few changes personally. I think you could go a couple different routes, but here's what I would change. I would actually take out a few of the cards like Unburial Rites, Tyvar, Rezug, and one of the relics. I think I hit too many relics, and it's kind of a dead and awkward card. It is very good, but I just, with Emery and having Emery allows me to bring relic back if I do maul it, so I do have more ways to recur it. I think I can cut down one of the relics. I'm going to cut down on Unburial Rites. I think it's too cute. I did win in one game with it. I just don't think it's good enough. And I don't like it enough to keep it for having, cost 4 mana. And you usually are already really behind on board if you're casting it, or you're hoping that you can resolve it and get Kethis in the field and then go off. But I think there are better options other than Unburial Rites. I think Tyvar's too cute. I like it. I just don't like it enough to keep it in there. I did not cast it enough and think it was strong enough and impactful enough to keep it in the deck. And I like Rezug, but again, I think it's too slow. It's an easy removal to target. Now, with that being said, I would like to bring a forest into the main deck. I think having a forest just against a Field of Ruin, just one of main, is okay. I also felt like I was a little bit behind on, getting the land curve properly. I also think I would bring in a Skrelv in the main board. Skrelv is just such a good legendary 1-drop creature. I think it's another great option for me to have and be able to pump out with a Temple Garden or a Mana Confluence or Plaza Hero. It's a great card, I think, to then protect my combo piece. I actually might even put 2 Skrelvs in here and take a Skrelv out of the sideboard so that I can free up some room here. Now, I think what I want to do as well is I want to play Stone of Erich. Stone over Vaconia. Now, instead of casting Vaconia, I want to cast another Stone. Stone of Erich is a legendary, so it does combo very well with this deck. I can mill it over and still recur it with Kethis, and hopefully get rid of their graveyard, slow them down, get rid of whatever nuisance I need to get rid of with Stone of Erich. So I'm going to bring another Stone of Erich into the battlefield, into the sideboard. All right, now I think another thing I would like to do is bring a Urza's Dronis Blast into the main board. Now, I have one in the sideboard, and I'm going to keep one in the sideboard, but I might even bring a third into the sideboard. I would like to bring one main, and I think this is good enough as a 5-mana spell to use. It clears everything off of their board that I really need to get rid of. I think having that as a 1-of in the main, be able to remove a nuisance card rather than fold to something that really shuts me down, maybe game 1 that they had in the main board, and I need to get rid of that. Now, Urza's Ruinous Blast I think is great as a 1-of. I wouldn't run more than 1 in the main. I'm going to run 2. I'm going to run 2 in the sideboard so that we have some answers to bring in. All right, I think I have room for one more sideboard card. I don't know exactly what I would want to bring in. Yeah, we can try maybe one of the new cards like Isildur, legendary instant. It's a legendary spell. One legendary instant. I think having one legendary instant is actually kind of cool. All right, so I think after a few games, really playing in the higher ranks of diamonds and almost getting a mythic with this deck, I think this is a tier 1 deck. It can compete with any other tier 1 deck in the format and get you high ranks if you know how to pilot it. I think the hardest thing about this deck is piloting the deck, knowing what your outs are, what you need to find, and how to get to that card quickly, consistently hitting your combo, and just knowing how to work around hate is probably the hardest part about this deck. The other hard part about this deck is knowing how to sideboard. All the pieces that are in the main board are usually pretty key pieces of the combo. It allows you to stay consistent. Cutting some of those key pieces reduces the consistency, but you need to cut those key pieces to bring in sideboard tech to fight against whatever they're playing. And I think just playing matches with this deck will get you to a point where you know what cards are useful out of the sideboard and what cards aren't very useful in the main against the deck you're playing. I will be coming up with sideboard guides in the future once I get my channel established. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe, hit that bell, the notification button. I will be releasing YouTube videos frequently, multiple times a week. Also, follow me on Kick at BrackAttackG. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks.